Welcome to Babbling Zoom, where the narrative matters. Um, so as of filming, I think about like a week ago, Starfield got a big update. Um, a really good update where they kind of fixed a lot of problems, allowed you to throttle the difficulty of story and everything. And so far, everyone's been saying it's been great. I haven't had a chance to play it. I'm chasing FOMO with Destiny 2. Final Shape's about to happen. I'm not paying for any of it. So a bunch of free things happen. I'm just playing around. Now, the big thing about Starfield, which I'm kind of happy to get back to, when the Starfield initially launched, it kind of boasted itself as like, going out there, exploring the planet, all that stuff. And I thought, okay, cool. So I jumped on my game. I started playing. And the first few introductions, I was like, all right, cool. This is cool. No problem. Um, oh, no, all this is going to be spoilers. So spoiler warning. Um, the first person you're introduced to is actually Barrett. If I'm trying to remember everyone's name, you're first introduced to Barrett, right? Who's awesome, carefree guy, kind of a swindler, scoundrel type of character. No problem, awesome. You're okay with that. Um, but then you're really kind of thrusted into the story when you finally go to see the constellation and their lodge. Upon entering the lodge, you're actually really greeted with the main face that always keeps coming up is Sarah. Yes, everyone else is there as you slowly start being introduced to everyone. But the real true companion that you're first given of the four romance options is Sarah. Sarah is the kind of co or second in command when it comes to the constellation and the exploration group, right? Um, she is kind of the full on uh, upper class British female character. Fine. But at this point is where the subtext really starts baking itself into the story. Um, you're walking into a lodge that is about exploration. And the very first person you're greeted with is someone who's British, which kind of pulls up a specific era in history where the British had the power and strength of ships and where the British kind of really kind of more dominated the seas with their ships and colonized multiple places, right? And as you start playing, you start realizing this is really kind of the subtext of the entire story. This is about colonization, about how humans gain the ability to go out and explore and colonize multiple planets, right? Yes, Bethesda said didn't want to do any like racial stuff, but I mean, maybe it's because they didn't realize that they're actually already implanting that into the story, right? Your first companion that you hang out with is an upper class British person who is head dead set on protecting the status quo of the I can't remember the name of that colony. I am blanking on that now. That is the funniest part. There is well, not the way I want to go. This is probably where I wanted to go. I should probably look up factions. UC Vanguard. That's it. Um, and the UC Vanguard's whole thing, as you start following her storyline, it just keeps piling on itself. The story of you follow her and her plot line through the UC Vanguard, which you don't, but it kind of opens up more of the UC Vanguard stuff, where their whole thing is, fight for the organization, for the country, or for the colonies, and become a citizen and have rights as a citizen and this, that, and the other. And it just slowly starts sounding really more and more horrible. And then eventually finding out like, her whole plot line really does focus on the UC Vanguard, and the ship she helped command and the order she did. And the deeper you get into this, the more you're like, the more I at least felt, I don't like you. You're bringing up bad history right now. Do you get that from everyone else? No, but they'll kind of somehow fall into the category of colonization, right? Um, Andreja, Joe, yeah. Um, she is essentially the immigrant coming in to this world, right? She's disconnected. She's part of the one order. Oh, it's not in here because you don't join that order, of course. Um, she's more part of a religious order, right? So kind of breaking religion beliefs, maybe more like a missionary thing. It's not, but it's kind of like that. Um, Sam is his whole thing is essentially America's colonization of the West, right? We came in, we settled, we're trying to just protect our land, and we don't like the idea of bigger powers trying to tell us what to do. Essentially, the organizations of, let's see, the US UC Guard and the Freestar Rangers is just a retelling of the fights, the it's kind of harkening back to a lot of Civil War stories, right? Especially with the whole especially with American Civil War. Basically placing them as being the South. Um Barrett's whole story, as you start getting deeper into helping him out, he harkens more into the scoundrel aspect, the pirates. He's not part of that, although I didn't actually finish that plot on yet. But essentially that's that. He's kind of the easiest one to deal with because he's not really integrated in one of the bigger organizations or the factions. He's just is. So every time I play this, like I went down a really bad rabbit hole with Sarah, where the deeper into the romance tree I got with her, the more I hated her and the more I didn't like the implications that she was playing with. She didn't seem sympathetic. She felt like a colonizer, and it really started bugging me more and more as I played her. Especially in a world where the entire thing is about exploring staking claim, which you do, um, and seeing the different conflicts that revolve around owning or colonization of planets. This is the subtext of Starfield. And one of the most annoying things that I can't stand about the storytelling is great stories, don't get me wrong, but that's the thing. That's why I can never choose Sarah again. Why am I mentioning this? Dune, Dune 2 is now out streaming, so you can all watch it. Great. When I went to see this, I actually went with my wife. It started off surprisingly, it's supposed to be a good day, but it slowly started falling apart as we try to journey and have a nice dinner before going to see this movie. So I sat down to watch this 2 hour and 47 minute, I have it written down somewhere else, movie. And as the score started playing and as the movie started playing, the deeper I got into the story, the more I realized that there's a lot of subtext that's been bugging me about this movie, especially when I didn't like the music. And my wife even mentioned the fact that I was really off put by the music choice. For those who don't know, um, Villeneuve has kind of doubled down on the sand people equals Middle Eastern characteristics. More, I say Middle Eastern, but it's a little more like um, um, Muslim-esque aspects, right? And seeing the Fremen people slowly just falling in line with faith and mysticism and all that stuff troubled me so much because it's implying that this type of people are easily swayed. And it's kind of bugs me, right? So much so, by the way, that after watching this, it bugged me so much that I went back and just listened to the audiobooks of the first two books, Dune and Dune Messiah, because I knew by the end of this is going to be Dune Messiah anyway. It's coming the third movie. So I had to just dive in deeper, and it opened up my mind to way more way more about it, right? Give me, I'm back. I had to check something. So by the end of this, it made me realize something. Dune 2 surprisingly did two and a half hour, over 2.5 hours of not much, nothing much, other than Paul is the Messiah, but no, he's not the Messiah because he keeps saying he isn't, and blah 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 blah. And the subtext of this surprisingly clashed with the subtext of the first movie. So let me get to that. This is not the first movie. This is the old 84 version of Dune. Uh, this version, the theatrical version of Dune came out. And what it did was it chopped up a lot of the footage. So there's tons of deleted scenes that's taken out. And in doing so, it kind of robbed the story of a bigger, thicker narrative. If you had to break it down, in the 2 hours and 17 minutes of the theatrical cut, this is not the picture above is not that. This is the alternative cut. I'll talk about that later. If you had to take the theatrical version of this, what it does is it takes, zoom out a bit. There we go. It takes the first hour and a half of its movie, and that essentially is Dune Part 1. The last 47 minutes of the original theatrical version is Dune Part 2, right? That's what I forgot to put in there. Yeah, that's what I forgot to put. I'll look it up when we're doing this. All right, so they both extend the movie. They both extend both they both extend the cut of the movie to a nice, respectable, like 2.5 hour movie. Fine. But in doing so, both movies have a bad habit of like cutting things, right? The real reason I'm mad about both these films is they're both playing against each other. If Dune 2, again, spoilers, plays so hard at Paul denying the fact that he is the Kwisatz Haderach, that's it. Or the Kwisatz Haderach, or the Elsie Moaib or whatever. Basically, he's trying to denounce the fact that he is the special. Wow, I'm going to go there. He's like, I'm not the special. Stop, leave me alone. I'm not the special. Right? For those of you who know Lego Movie. But the problem is if you watch the first movie, there are multiple instances where they're trying their hardest to show you that he is the special. Right? I can't remember all of them, but the Gum Jabbar. There we go. The Gum Jabbar is by far the worst example of it. In the Gum Jabbar test, comparing the old one to the new one. In the Gum Jabbar test, what ends up happening is Paul walks in, the same thing like they all happen the exact same way. They're the Reverend Mother uses the voice, pulls them forward. He kneels. He's told about the box and how it's pain, and then the Gum Jabbar, the needle, is put up against their neck. Right? Make it bigger. Cool. They're both done this. In the 84 version, the test goes forward. Not only do you see him struggling with the pain, you actually see what is going on inside the box, which is a really gruesome and awesome scene that should always be copied from here on in. At this time, because the old 80s version has the habit of like also adding the narration that's going on in their head, which is a very big part of the book. You're always constantly in people's heads, understanding the other layers of what they're seeing. It's very big about that in the books. So he is quietly struggling to say the mantra of fear, right? Trying to keep himself calm and doing so. In the Villeneuve version, what ends up happening is Jessica is the one doing it, which makes her feel weaker. And it really bugs me about that. It doesn't make her as strong a presence in that. And throughout the rest of the movie, I just hate the way they portray Jessica. She seems weak in that one. At the end is where it differs. 84. Paul struggles, continues their mantra. The pain is overwhelming. You actually see the flesh crawling and falling off his hand, which is amazing. And then he screams in pain, the pain, still keeping his hand in the box. He is human. Right? And even at that point, the Reverend Mother says, well done, human. I believe she says human, yes, instead of animal. And they have a calm conversation about the point of the box and distinguishing people from animals and the ability of humans to restrain pain and overwrite common logic, instinct. Yes, that is the entire point. And she clearly explains it to Paul. It's a great scene. In the Villeneuve 2020 version, Paul is going through the box, Jessica's reciting the thing, and all of a sudden he lets the pain wash over him, the fear and the pain will wash over him, and he just stares with daggers at the Reverend Mother as the swelling music pops up. Oh, everyone knows that song, right? Right? The fake Arabian type of thing, right? Which hints, subtext, that he is the one. He is the one that's going to do this. And multiple times this happens to him over and over and over again in the first movie. The first movie is constantly telling you through a leitmotif. That's the word I'm trying to think. Through the leitmotif that Paul is the one. He is the one. And by the end of the first movie, you're like, yes, he is the one. He's going to do all this stuff and he's going to be great. So what ends up happening throughout the second movie, he constantly denies it over and over and over again as Stilgar and all of the other people, with the exception of Cheney and her group, denies it over and over and over again. It is the most annoying, frustrating thing in the world because I remember the other movie. Because the other movie is all like trying your hardest to make you say, no, he is the one. And now we're wasting 2 hours and 46 minutes of him saying, I'm not. Stop freaking out, I'm not. Right? And even the worst part about it is in the books, Stilgar isn't convinced through the whole book. As opposed to the movie, Stilgar is just a diehard fanatic. He's basically the Matrix. The Matrix is essentially just Dune all over again. In the Matrix, through the entire movie of the Matrix, Morpheus is just diehard convinced, and everyone's like, "You're crazy." This is what Stilgar's like in this new movie, in the Villeneuve movie. In the books, he's not. He's not actually convinced until the very last scene, and that's when he loses him. That's when Stilgar becomes a fanatic, right? And that's the difference. That's the craziest difference, right? It paints the Fremen people as religious nuts who are going to just follow anything as long as it gets close enough to the prophecy. And it's actually comical watching Stilgar freaking out every single minute saying, it's one, he's the one, he's the one, he's the one. And I'm like, that's the most annoying thing in the world. Because it undermines him as a character. And the people all together. They are smart people. And in doing so, the subtext of it undermines Muslim faith or just any Middle Eastern culture altogether. Because we're put in this situation where desert people equal Middle Eastern people equals Orientalist thinking. And that's why I was really bugged through this entire movie. What else was I bugged by the way? Let's get to the next reason why I couldn't stand this movie. 47 minutes. If you've seen this version, I'm going to stop moving around too much. It's probably disorientating with you guys. If you've seen the original theatrical version of this movie, when you get to the 47-minute mark, or when you get to the hour and 30-minute mark, it jumps right into the last part of the movie. And it's so quick, right? It is really quick. You're only given... So if I put... So we get to this part. So here. Right here, you're only given... I'm doing my math. 17 minutes. The math is right. Yeah, you're given about like 17 to 18 minutes of just building him up. Jessica taking the water of life, him getting his name, all that stuff, right? Before it jumps 2 years. And then the rest of the movie ends. It's such a jump, it's jarring. And I get why people are like, what just happened? That was crazy. You just rambled a bunch of stuff that happened and moving on. And then for the rest of the movie, it's kind of just, standard affair of him taking a water of life and all that stuff and him fighting. So you would think, and the biggest complaint that everyone had was the fact that it was so short and you can really add so much. There's too much story in this story, in this moment. Move all this up to here. There's too much story in the books, and you just went through it really quickly. So hopefully a 2 hour and 46-minute movie will fix that problem. Right? Right? Maybe. Okay, let's go and look at it. Now, I'm going to show you pieces of the deleted scenes from the 80s as well. So that's what's really going on. So let's talk about the main thing. We already know about Jamis and his fight and everything else. That's already covered in book 1, or that's already covered in part 1. So we don't need to worry about that. I mean, most of the new movie kind of focuses on them just transporting the body. Fine. What's missing? Thufir Howard. Gone. Just completely axed from this movie. Completely axed. We don't know what happened to him. He's gone. In the original books, he's captured. He starts working for the Baron Harkonnen, which is shown in this annoying scene, disturbing scene, I should say, of the original 80s version, right? So Thufir is gone. So we scratched that out. What else is gone? When you get back to the Siege, which is the place that they go to, where the Fremen live in the rocks, Gone is Janice's wife and children, and the ceremony. You know, gone is that. Where's Hera? Where's the fact that Paul gets Hera? Okay, fine. Let's move on. Um, Liette Kynes was in the new version Shawnee's mom, in the books and in the old version Shawnee's dad, right? This is a deleted scene. Note Hera again. But what do we lose from the new movie? Shawnee's grief. This is her grieving the loss of her family, right? In this version, it's her dealing with the fact that her dad died. The Harkonnens killed him. This was not added into the old movie or the new movie, right? So that's gone. We did at least add what was it, Fade's arena fight, which is great. Cool. We get to see Fade fight in the arenas. Perfect. Awesome. We should also introduce us to the Benny Gesserit's whole concept of what they're trying to do with breeding. That's great. You know what's missing from this scene? Howard. I need to fill that. Luther Howard is the one, after joining the Harkonnens, has been trying to get these two people to kill themselves the entire story. In the books, after he joins and becomes their mentat, his entire goal is to undermine both of them, constantly pinning them against each other. This is not this fight. With the Atreides captured soldiers was orchestrated by Howard or Puffer Howard and Fade. They decided to let this guy walk around with no drugs. They also introduced the secret word that would disable him as well. Right? The Baron had no idea this was going on. The Baron actually freaked out. He was actually calmly freaking out, trying to figure out what is going on. So yes, great. You introduced this scene, but you missed the other point of this scene. Right? What in the world? Um, the other scene I'm missing, which I'm going to see if I can try and find it. Not that version. Actually, you know what I can do? I know it's spelling wrong, I think. Ah, there. This is a perfect example. Copy this image. So the other part that's left out, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to zoom out real quick so you get it. I probably should use the other picture, but there's an infamous scene in the old movie that everyone kind of just hates, and this is the wielding way, the weirding way, right? This is the one where Paul uses his weird little voice amplifier as a weapon. But this isn't about the weapon. This is actually about the fact that Paul has actually been given an elite guard, the Feta Key, the elite advanced guard of Paul, and the basically the death squad of Paul, trained in the way of the Bene Gesserits, the Bene Gesserit fighting style, the weirding way, right? The weirding way. This, surprisingly, is also left. Whoop, this is also left out in the new movie. Hmm. Yeah, he's always hanging out with a bunch of people, but it's never implied that he's teaching them. They don't learn. They don't share cultures. They don't share abilities and stuff. It's never mentioned, right? So this entire group is gone, right? Oh, I just realized this was from a different scene, but I want to express the whole red thing. It's not in the book that it's red, but in a way, visually, this is the best way of showing that it's a special group. Gone is the 2-year jump. Gone is the 2-year jump. Completely gone. Okay. Does that help any that does that hurt anything? Yeah, because you don't get to see 2-year-old Aaliyah. You get the talking fetus. The weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. It removes the idea that Aaliyah is unnatural and everyone is scared of her. There's actually a deleted scene where Jessica, Aaliyah, and Hannah, you know, Janice's wife, Janice's wife, yeah, um, have a conversation about how Aaliyah's creepiness of just talking like like an actual like grown woman as a 2-year old is freaking out the entire siege. But that's not a worry in this movie, right? So we just completely leave out Aaliyah. But the other thing we're actually also leaving out that's not put in is the Leto the second. After the 2-year jump, both Aaliyah is born and Paul and Cheney's first son is born, right? Gone. Completely gone. They did keep the water of life, Paul drinking the water of life, in the correct way. In the old version, it was in the 80s version, um, or the 80s theatrical version. Let me rephrase that. They ended up taking Paul outside with his elite guards and Shawnee, and then the whole like sandworms are staring at him and loving him and all that stuff. They did. I didn't realize this, but they did actually did the correct book accurate way and filmed it that way, but scrapped it and went the other way with it. So I'm sad to say I would love to see this actually filmed and see what this looks like filmed, right? So well, we've got that scene right. Oh no, who was that again? For Howard? Oh, actually, let me go back for a second because we're going to talk about the whole 2-year jump again. So this is important because it really symbolizes a whole bunch of things. So in the 2-year jump, what happens? Leo's born, Leto II is born, and we actually continue the struggle between um, Baron Harkonnen and Fade, with a simple little scene that happens where you find out that Fade has been trying to kill the Baron through his not saying no, through his temptations, the Baron has a habit of trying to be with certain people. I'm going to pause this real quick because I'm going to. Okay, so where was I? uh, in the 2 years, we talked about the fact that um, we see the progression of the Baron and Fate, and the fact that they're secretly trying to kill each other. Well, Fade is secretly trying to kill the Baron. The Baron does not want to try to kill Fade, but that's what's going on. Um, and you find out that Howard is the one who's been secretly pitting these two against each other throughout the whole time. So, in the book, that's actually how it starts. It doesn't start with someone saying it's 2 years later, like in the old theatrical version. It actually starts with the Baron confronting Fade on the new assassination attempt and saying, "It's been 2 years. We need to stop. This is what I really want you to do. I'm setting you up for greatness. Stop messing around." And he's like, "Okay, Uncle. I'm sorry. I get it." Right? So that's where the 2 years thing jumped. This is where the 2 years basically missed a whole bunch of interesting things. Um, so by the time we get to the final fight, what are we missing? Oh, I totally forgot again. The entire reason why Paul even took the water of life. Why did he take the water of life? Because after picking up Gurney Halleck, you know Gurney, let's go back up to Gurney. After picking up Gurney Halleck, from that scene where they attack the harvester, um, they actually meet up with Jessica, and the long running theme that was omitted in book one or a part one of the movies was the fact that everyone thought Jessica was the traitor. After Gurney tried to kill Jessica, Paul intervened and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, man, that's not the truth. Let me tell you who the truth. It is. It was. Wow, I'm blacking his name. It was the doctor, Doctor Yue." And in that moment, Paul realized he couldn't see the future, and he panicked. I almost lost my mom, and I almost lost my one of my friends. And he panicked and ran and did the water of life, realizing if I need to be able to save everyone and protect everyone, I need to be able to see beyond. I need to take the water of life and see everything. And in doing so, he takes the water of life. He plans the attack on the Emperor. And in the middle of this attack, like about here in the middle of the attack, Leto second dies. You know, the baby that's never added into both movies. Leah is captured. And by the time we get to this point, Aaliyah is the one who kills the Baron, as per the book. Um, everyone is summoned to the chamber, as per the book. Howard is told to kill Paul because Cooper Howard thinks that Jessica is the murderer, is the person who betrayed everyone. An ongoing theme that was implanted in the first half of the book that is left out again in the first movie. and getting the signal from Gurney. This is Gurney in this version. Realizes he was wrong. For 2 years, he was wrong. Jessica was not the traitor, and he messed up. And he messed up so badly that being told that killing Paul would grant him his freedom, realizing he messed everything up, he goes to Paul with a knife in hand and says, "I'm sorry, I messed up," and pulls his heart plug. In this movie, he pulls his heart plug. In the other movie, in the book, he was supposed to have a drug, and he dies. But he gets his ability to apologize and move forward. That's left out in the new movie. So this entire scene is left out in the new movie. And because of the difference in the ending, this scene never happens. The scene where Jessica tells Chani that even though you're going to be a concubine in history, you'll be Paul's wife. Because Villeneuve changed the ending. This is one of those few moments where I'm like, I surprisingly like it. I like the changing of this point. Everything else I'm upset with. But this is that moment where I had to take a step back and say, I like it and I hate it at the exact same time. Why is that? And that's the rabbit hole that started where I dove into that was the start of the rabbit hole where I dove in and started reading the books and trying to understand what was going on and all that stuff and realizing how surprisingly similar the old Dune books were or the old Dune movie was and how much as much as you guys praise these movies, how much it leaves out. So much is left out. So many other plots and beats and like themes are left out just to focus so hard, so much on this concept that Fremen are desert people, which means they have to be Middle Eastern people. That's messed up. It's really messed up. And that's why I really can't go along with this movie. Visually, it's amazing. But the subtext of this movie is harmful. Down to the score, down to the religious fervor that even the leader, Stilgar, is creating, down to the implication of using people through religion. And the best thing that ever happened in this movie is Chani walking away because it's kind of wrong. Now, eventually, I'm probably going to think about like I know I'm going to probably do a video about how maybe I would have recontextualized this or more more about what the third movie is going to be because in this moment, leaving getting Chani out of there completely upends the third book, or the, sorry, completely upends Dune Messiah as a book. There's so much that it changes. Um, but I'm not going to end there. I want you to really pay attention to all the things that Villeneuve deleted, completely omitted from this whole movie, right? Um, all these themes, all of these themes. Look at this. All these moments in the book, gone. Actually, it's this slipped in here. All of these moments in the second half of this movie is all deleted for a very simple story about Paul hanging out with a bunch of desert people. That's it. None of the other storylines are in there. so much story, so much wealth of information is thrown out for a 2 hour and 46 minute action film. All right. So I showed this moment, the alternative edition. There's, I think the new one's the alternative Redux edition or something like that. So why am I bringing this one up? Why am I showing this? You could find this now. Someone basically took most of the deleted scenes, not all of the deleted scenes, most of the deleted scenes. There's still scenes out there that should have been put in here. But essentially, the alternative version is the Zack Snyder cut of Dune. I'm really mentioning that because it's important. We'll come up here. Perfect. All right. This version is a 2 hour and 59-minute movie. It takes the entire movie and actually breaks it down to chapters, just like the just like the Snyder cut, right? It actually opens, each chapter opens. I don't know if you guys can read that. It says Great House. With a saying in the actual books. Muad'Dib and Prophet. And it spaces it out very well, right? I'd say within the first half of the book. This is the first half of the film, right? You're essentially given what Dune Part 1 should have been, where it should have ended, right? And with all the extra pieces put back in, all the deleted scenes put in, you're given a very nice, tidy ending. What should have been Dune Part 2. This is way more comprehensive. For the first, this is the first. This is the first 2 hours. This is it. Because Prophet's very small. Prophet's very short, right? You're given a very good plot, very good story. Yes, it's got all the weird, clunky talking, and they keep some of the narration, inner monologue, I should say. They keep some of the inner monologue, but in the end, it's more true to the books with the clunky 80s effects. I get it. Some of you are like going to laugh at it. Makes sense. So here's what I ask. Yes, this is there. You can watch this if you want. You can watch the theatrical version if you want to. But give the alternative a chance. Right? Give it a chance to tell you a little bit more of the world. In a way, do it the way my wife did it. My wife watched these two movies first. This was her introduction to Dune. Once we did that, I just skipped the theatrical version and went straight to this version to show her a more deeper understanding of what the story was really trying to tell you. She obviously, because she watched the new ones first and the visuals are amazing, loved this version better. But it's because she watched this version that the old version made more sense. And the old version is more true to the books. than any other version so far. Well, the sci-fi version did it too. But I don't know if anyone wants to watch that long thing. Some say it's good. The effects, the costumes are horrible, but that's up to you. That's what I'm asking. If you love the new versions, great. You love the new versions for the film that it is. But please do not say this is the definitive version of Dune there is. This is not the most book accurate version there is of the story. It changes a lot. Changes a lot. And it leaves out even more. It leaves out so much more. And robs a very good plot, a very good story of deeper meanings, deeper themes, subplots, all these things, all in the vein of showing that the Fremen and spice are essentially the Middle East and oil. And those who love this movie, go ahead, love this movie. But for me, the subtext will always be clear. And that robs this movie of power, of grace. I'm hoping the last movie is going to be good. I'm going to speculate on what's going to happen in another video. But I know after reading the second book, after reading Messiah, that it's got an uphill struggle. It's got such a battle to try and capture that book. And if it's like the second movie where it barely even tried to add all the little story part beats into it, then I think it's just to be an okay movie. It's gonna be okay. Let's be real. I'd rather let you guys find it online, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to add talk that an interview with Frank Herbert. I'm going to try and find it, of course. I'm going to add a interview with Frank Herbert about the first book, like a 60 something, like I think early 60s or late 60s interview where he was just about to release the book Dune Messiah, his second book. If you guys are interested in it, it's mostly audio, so it's an interesting read. You can just throw in the background and listen to it and see what his vision was and how he felt about it and what he really envisioned the Fremens to be. And even how he came about with the whole storyline or the even world. It's a good interview because it tells you what he was thinking. Not what we're speculating. Right? And that's important. You want to know what they wanted to do, not what you think they want to do. Again, narrative matters. So, thank you. I'll see you next time.